Good morning. So, in the Easter holidays, we are looking at some of the Easter characters, and we're going to backtrack a little bit in the Easter story. And today we're looking at Peter, and I'm joined by Lorna. It's nice to have you with me.
This is going to be fun.
Yes, it will be fun. So, Lorna, tell us about Peter. Who was Peter?
Okay, so Peter was one of the 12 disciples. He was originally called Simon, and he was a fisherman, along with his brother. And Jesus renamed him to be Peter, which meant the rock. He was going to be the sort of foundation for the church. But
Sure.
he was part of the inner group in the end. There were 12 disciples, but Peter, James, and John were the ones that saw an awful lot of things that other people maybe weren't there for. They were there when Jesus was up on the mountain in the Transfiguration, and he met with Elijah and Moses. And I just can't imagine that.
Yeah.
That's just such a strange thing to experience. So he'd seen Jesus walking on water. He was the one that got out of the boat and walked with him. He had been there when the 5,000 were fed. He was there when Jesus stilled the storm. He'd seen so many things. But he was just this ordinary guy at the beginning, before Jesus came along. So yeah, it was just...
Awesome. Seen so much firsthand.
Yes, exactly.
That's amazing, really.
Yeah.
Awesome. But how did Peter handle the time leading up to Jesus' crucifixion?
So we've got the advantage that we know now what happened. We know what was going to come along. So
Yeah.
he was the one that had realised that Jesus was the Messiah. He was the one that had said that Jesus was the answer, that there was nowhere to go without him. And then suddenly there's soldiers coming along and taking this man that he thought was going to be the answer. So I think he was confused, scared. He probably panicked a bit.
Sure.
Before the soldiers came along, they'd gone up to the Garden of Gethsemane, and he was one of the ones that was asked to keep Jesus company while he was praying. Now, he wouldn't have known what was going to come up, so the three of them fell asleep. So Jesus is there crying or bleeding with the agony of the whole thing, and his friends are sleeping. So it's...
Sure.
Peter obviously was just human. He didn't know what was coming up. And then when the soldiers came along, he's the one that grabbed a sword and cut off the servant's ear.
Oh, yes.
So
Wow.
he tried to fight back, and Jesus stopped him. And then when Jesus went off with the soldiers, Peter followed. But when he was outside the building where he was being tried, he basically denied that he knew him. He was obviously so confused and scared that when people asked, "Weren't you with him?" he said, "Nope, not me."
Sure.
And then when he realised what he said, he was devastated. The Bible says that he went and cried and wept bitterly. So I think he just didn't have a clue what was going on. I feel quite sorry for him at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A crazy moment, and yeah. How can his story be encouraging to us?
So I find it really encouraging that, first of all, he was normal. He got things wrong.
Yeah.
That he certainly wasn't perfect. But once Jesus had risen again, and when they're sitting beside the Sea of Galilee, and Jesus basically gives him the opportunity to almost take back what he'd said outside the courts. And Jesus forgave him. And he said that, he gave him the chance to start over, basically. And Peter became the leader of this new church. He's the one that stood up at Pentecost and explained to everybody what was going on.
Wow.
He wasn't educated, but God used him.
Sure.
So it's hugely encouraging that this man that got things wrong, actually God loved him, God used him, he mattered. And yeah, past mistakes didn't stop him from being able to be what God wanted him to be.
Sure.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Wow. That's very encouraging
Yes.
to us.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, Lorna. If you have any questions about this conversation or anything else to do with the Christian faith, please do email us at pastoral@kingscc.org.